journal searches and starting to think about reliability of sources that we went through in class. We looked at starting to think about academic journals and trade journals and exactly what a journal is, as well as starting to think about how reliable they are. So we went through this PowerPoint and started discussing different journals. Just some key points to note that we discussed that we went through what journals are, so I'll let you have a read through that at your own time. But our main focus was on academic journals, which are also sometimes called scholarly journals or periodical journals. And we started discussing these and the differences between these and trade journals. So really in your work you should be looking for academic journals. You did a Google search and so there were quite a few results that came up, and some simple alternatives that I suggested to start with was to look at things like Google Scholar and Google Books as just an alternative to doing a simple Google search, and start thinking how you can narrow down some of that information when you're searching, which becomes useful when you're using journal databases. And one of the things that we discussed was using things like Boolean operators. So thinking about things like putting words and in, or not, and then using things like quotation marks and truncation. So putting a truncation, using truncation means if you put a star at the end of a word, it will consider different endings. So if you were searching for, I don't know, the word development, it would also consider words developing, developmental, alternative endings that you might not have thought of that might bring up more results. This handout's available on Moodle, so have a read through, have a think about how you can use different information to search for the same things and expand your searches if you're not finding a lot of results. Also have a look at the checklist. We're starting to think about how reliable sources are. We're going to consider this more in some detail next week in class. Okay, so we went through and discussed all of this in class. Remember to have a read through this PowerPoint if you haven't done this already, and follow the steps for accessing journals through the college, through Moodle. All the steps are on here that you can follow. And then also using DMU to search for journals, and remember you'll need your DMU login details to search for these. So that's your P number and your date of birth, which includes the slashes in these, whereas you don't need those for your Moodle login. Remember, if you're unsure how to log into Moodle, look on the back of your college badge and it will tell you how to log on. So just a couple of points to note when you're using these journal databases, which a couple of the problems that you came up with in class. When you're searching, you can limit some of what you're finding by clicking on searching for full text articles, which means you're getting the whole article, not just an abstract. You can also select things like scholarly or peer-reviewed journals, which means it will only find journals that have been reviewed by someone else in the academic world with specialist knowledge about that subject. So that's one way of checking that journals are reliable, if they have been peer assessed or peer reviewed. You can also limit it to only find where references are available, or if you're searching, you want some current journals, you can select the year that you want to find the information in, which will ensure you're not looking at old results. So just get familiar and start practicing with your journal searches, and remember to try and find some examples of the differences between trade and academic journals. And as I said, for next week for the next session, you need to go to Moodle and look at the Harvard referencing and plagiarism tutorials. Plagiarism, what is it and how to avoid it. Just a reminder of how to get to that on Moodle. If you scroll down to your study skills area, and these can be found just here, Harvard referencing, plagiarism, what is it and how to avoid it. And you need to consider these questions. Why should you use a referencing system? What is plagiarism and how can you avoid plagiarism? And we'll be looking in the next session at referencing, but you should be familiar with using journal databases and exactly what journals are before you come to this session. You should also review distinguishing between trade and scholarly or academic journals so that you're aware of the differences between those.